Alright, so in this video I wanted to talk about muscle. So first let's talk about cardiac muscle. So cardiac muscle is in your heart. It's going to be located in your heart wall, and basically it will contract so that your heart can beat and pump blood throughout your body. The structure of it looks like this. So I guess this is one. Oh, actually, let's just do that. Yeah. Okay. And then this goes here, right? Maybe this next one, and then there's another one here, and it will be in sort of this formation. Yeah. Okay. So this isn't a great drawing, but it's just to kind of give you an idea for the formation. And then it'll just keep going, you can imagine. So this is just a small segment, and it's bigger. It's zoomed up. But yeah, that's sort of the formation. Let's do like one more. Then something like that. Yeah, so that's just to give you a basic idea. And then they would contain these things called myofibrils. Oh, but first, before I talk about that, I should probably just say each of these are called like they're a muscle. Each of these is a muscle cell, right? So muscle cell, and they can also be called myofibers, or just muscle fibers. So might hear them called that. Okay. Yeah, and they're anyways. They're going to contain these myofibrils, and these myofibrils are going to span across the cells. Okay, and when they contract, it's just a basic drawing. But when they contract, the cell's going to contract, and if all of these cells are contracting, then the heart wall will contract. And you can imagine that would be the driving force behind your heart pumping blood. Okay. And we'll also see that your skeletal muscle also has myofibrils. And we'll talk more about myofibrils next video, about how they actually function. Okay, so now let's talk about smooth muscle. So smooth muscle, kind of like this, I guess. Okay. They'll look kind of like diamonds, almost, like that. It's not a great drawing, so if you want a better drawing, you can go, you can look up smooth muscle structure or something like that. And then the same thing for cardiac or skeletal muscle. Okay. And if this doesn't, and if at any point this video or any of my videos don't make sense, you can go to Khan Academy, or you can go to your schoolwork if you have done this in school or are doing this in school currently. Okay, so that's sort of the general idea, I think. So they're sort of like this. And instead of myofibrils, like skeletal muscles and cardiac muscle, they're going to have these intermediate filaments that are sort of going to be spreading around them, going around them. So these are the intermediate filaments. I'll just draw them on one because actually I'll draw them on two. So like that, just really quickly. So these are like intermediate filaments, and they're going to be going across the cell. Each of these is a cell, right? one muscle cell. Okay, so this would be an intermediate filament. Intermediate filament. Filament. Okay. So all of these are intermediate filaments, and then you're going to have these dense bodies on your intermediate filament. Okay, like this. All around, like this. Okay. So these are the dense bodies. So dense bodies. Whoa. Dense bodies. Okay. And then between them, you're going to have thin and thick filaments. And thin and thick filaments are sort of what are going to provide a contracting force. I won't go into detail about how they do that, because I'll talk about that in the next video, but they're going to provide a contracting force, and then they're going to sort of, when they contract, they're attached to all these dense bodies here, and the dense bodies are attached to the intermediate filaments. So when they contract, the intermediate filaments will be pulled, and then the entire cell will contract. Okay, yeah. Because these intermediate filaments are going around the cell, so when these contract, the entire cell is going to contract. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now let's talk about skeletal muscle. All right. So let's just say this is general skeletal muscle. So let's say it has a tendon on the left side, and then maybe that tendon's attached to like a bone, and then you'd have a tendon on this side, and it's also attached to a different area of bone. Yeah, so just like a skeletal muscle. Now, if this muscle were to contract, okay, your bones would move in relation to each other, okay? They would move in relation to each other. Okay, so that's basically what a muscle does, or an example of what it can do. So now let's actually just want to let's actually take a cross section of this so that we can actually look at what the muscle contains and look at a muscle in more detail. Okay, so right. Okay. And now we're going to look at a cross section, so just like this piece. Okay. So draw it again, except only the cross section piece. So we're looking like this through the cross section. Okay. Now the first thing I want to talk about is the epimysium. Epimysium. Okay. Now this is just going to be something surrounding your muscle, and it's going to protect it against things like friction. So you can imagine when you're contracting, it might be subject to friction, and it just protects it against things like that. But anyways, this muscle is going to have a bunch of fascicles inside it. Fascicles. This isn't like actually how many there are, how many I'm drawing. I'm just drawing them to sort of represent where they are. And these fascicles are going to sort of be like cylindrical shape. They're going to span throughout the muscle. Going to span throughout the muscle, right? All of them are going to do that. I'll only draw a few. That. Okay. So they're going to span all the way along the muscle. Okay. So these are fascicles. Fascicles. Fascicle. Okay, so each one of those is a fascicle. Now surrounding the fascicles, okay, so there's going to be something surrounding the there's going to be something surrounding the fascicles. Okay. Let's just draw this to represent something surrounding it, and also be going between these fascicles. Right? So between and around these fascicles, this is going to be inside the epimysium, but it is going to be surrounding these fascicles. Okay, so I won't draw it entirely, but I think you get the idea. It'll be surrounding and between the fascicles, and this thing, the thing that I just shaded in, is going to be called your perimysium. Okay, perimysium. Perimysium. Okay, right. Now let's look at a fascicle. Okay, what a fascicle contains, right? So I'll zoom up on a fascicle. That's what the fascicle looks like. Let's just say it's a section of a fascicle. It's a section of a fascicle, and yeah, it's zoomed up. All right. Now these fascicles are going to contain actual muscle cells. So we've gotten down to the cellular level. They're going to contain muscle cells. Right. This isn't exactly how many, again. I'm just drawing them like this to just sort of show. Right. Cool. Okay. So like the fascicle sort of went spread across the spread across the muscle. These muscle cells are going to span the fascicle. Okay. Right. Let's draw a few. Let's draw a couple doing that. Okay. Draw a few. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there are going to be these muscle cells. And they're also called myofibers. Okay. Whatever you want to say. Okay. And they're going to span across the fascicle. All right. So around and between these muscle cells, okay, there's going to be something around and between these muscle cells, okay, and that thing is going to be called your endomysium. Okay. Okay. Now in a muscle cell, I'll draw a muscle cell close, or like a section of one, I guess. Right. Its membrane is called the sarcolemma. We'll talk more about that next video. Sarcolemma. Right. Sarcolemma. And it is going to have these things called myofibrils inside it, or spanning across it. Okay. Again, this is not how many exactly. I'm just drawing them to show you where they are. Okay. Okay. So these are a bunch of myofibrils. Okay. not to be confused with the myofiber. All right, so I know they all sound pretty similar, so it's important to be able to distinguish between them, despite them sounding so similar. This is a myofibril. Okay, and we'll talk about it more next video, but a myofibril is going to be able to sort of contract, and with all of these myofibrils contracting, the entire muscle will be able to contract. Okay, but we'll talk about that next video. For now, that pretty much concludes this video. Thank you.